Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio format wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube. And for those watching today, it's probably the only time you're going to see me sporting a hat. You know, the hair is just not cooperating. But we're repping Wonder Woman today, so there's nothing wrong there. Today we're talking a new Netflix release. They're firing on all cylinders recently. I caught this in theaters kind of for their limited engagement run. I'm sure, this is something maybe they're hoping will get an awards push later in the year. But that movie is Fair Play. So that film comes to us from Chloe Dumont, written and directed by. This is an examination of not only just a couple working in this financial world, but just a really intriguing examination about power or into power, the dynamics that it can kind of create both within a relationship, whether that's working, romantic, sexual, whatever. Power is a lot more embedded in things than many people would like to admit. And so it was really interesting to see kind of where she took this film and how she kind of explored it. So you've got Phoebe Divinaire, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Bridgerton. You've also got Alden Ehrenreich from Han Solo, Hail Caesar. You probably saw him in Oppenheimer this summer. The two are really terrific actors. I think Ehrenreich, especially for me, who's just been doing a lot of work that maybe largely goes unnoticed or hasn't quite hit that home spot. They kind of gave up on him after Han Solo, but somehow kept everything else that they're doing. But I think he did a great job there. And truthfully, the two of them are fantastic here. They play Luke and Emily, a younger couple. They're both financial analysts working at this crazy, crazy hedge fund in New York City, working all hours of the night, grinding away, trying to earn a spot here. It's super cutthroat. This world of business is already run by the Gentleman's Club, of course. So you're seeing this from a couple different perspectives, obviously, that male and female side of like, okay, what would my life look like in that inner circle versus yours? And so while they're both busting their asses, there's an opportunity for a promotion that arises. And obviously it's just one promotion, so only one of them is going to get this. They're in creating this power dynamic shift in the relationship. I don't totally want to go into details as to whether who gets it or just what happens. But, I went into this movie pretty blind, and I think that's a pretty good way for most audiences, I would say, to tackle this film. It's good to know kind of loosely what's going on or who the players are, but by and large, you only really need to know kind of the world that they exist in. Because they're working together as analysts at this firm, there's this whole, we can't technically tell people that we're dating because that kind of goes against some company policy. Therein lies a whole other set of issues, and on top of that, they've just recently gotten engaged, and so you've got this scenario where, number one, we really can't talk about the engagement too much because we both work together, and that's going to create a whole set of problems, job-wise. And that also kind of spawns this whole background relationship struggle, too, of, in essence, kind of having to keep your relationship a secret. So already there's so many different things happening all at once on top of, big financial decisions they're both having to make for this company, taking this info to their bosses. Hey, I think you need to short this stock. I think we need to dump 10,000 shares of this stock and reinvest over here. There's this whole financial world that kind of exists in the background of this movie. It was actually pretty interesting. The more I watch more financial films and get a better understanding of different markets and all of the different ways that hedge funds can work, it is interesting for sure just to listen to them speak, to watch what they're watching for, learning why certain things took a dip and why others didn't. And so I think, these business boardroom style dramas have always been something I've been fascinated by and interested in. So to certainly scratch that itch, it doesn't go too far into the financial side of things, where maybe I wish it would have just a little bit more, if only for some of that tension of like, all right, there's $20 million riding on this deal. Hopefully it works out, or hopefully you get this done. You do feel some of those stresses, obviously, from their work and what they're having to do to compete at these higher levels. And so what you end up with is some described as a kind of erotic thriller. I wouldn't go that far. There's certainly moments of this film where I've been struggling to try to find like the right way to define this, because it's not S&M, it's not bondage or BDSM, it's nothing like that, you know. And we've seen earlier this year the movie Sanctuary, which definitely leaned more into that, kind of touching again on some of that control with, hey, you know, you think you've got the power, psych, I've actually got the power and I'm going to take it from you, or I'm going to do whatever. And it's almost, I mean, that was more maybe the humiliation side of things. But here, you know, so much of this is ego. So much of this is, you know, can I be happy for this other person and still be all right with the fact that I didn't get it, or that I am now making less money, or now that I, you know, am not seen as one of the top people in the room. What it boils down to, I think, a lot is what we see, and I think a lot of everyday interactions. Everybody knows these people who, you know, it's like no matter what, you got to be number one, you got to be on top. It's the only thing they're vying for. It's great, you know, but that can become all consuming. And obviously, we've seen the other side of things about people who just don't care. I think in our more modern era, you know, whether it's a masculinity thing, femininity thing, whatever, you know, there are definitely gaps in who has power in certain areas. Some of that's been shifting in business, but obviously we're not seeing so much of that in general, whether it's leaning more female, whether it's leaning towards any other group other than white people, depending on where you're working. You know, these are just the realities that are faced. And so the exploration of some of that in this film was just really good, because obviously power uncovers who you really are too. I think of the Stanford prison experiment, both the film and the actual experiment itself. You give people an assignment. You're either a prisoner or you're a guard. Obviously, maybe these people are your friends in real life, maybe you don't know them, but your role is defined as such. And so as a prisoner, you're going to sleep, eat, get up when they tell you to, and you listen to the guards. As the guards, all you do is you keep them alive, fed, moving around, and whatever. And in such a short amount of time, it's people's true feelings, people's true inner self kind of reveals itself. You know, you had all these people who, I'm a guard now, I've got power, I've got purpose, I can tell these people what to do. And you see people take advantage of that in just real insidious ways, whether it's the humiliation route, I'm going to make you walk around like a dog, or I'm just going to tell you how much greater I am than you. I'm going to belittle you because of your position, because of these things. I'm going to hold myself as a higher standard for no other reason than I was given this role and you were given a different one. And already mentally, we're going to a place where, yes, I have the power, and power can be corrupting in the wrong hands. And so this movie is just a really interesting exploration of that through the relationship lens of these people who also work in this cutthroat tech industry, tech, data, financials. It was really great. Eddie Marson pops up as kind of the cutthroat boss. He's always one who I feel like I always see in the Cornetto films from Edgar Wright. Great British actor, getting to play pretty strict and pretty serious here. So that's always fun, seeing the funny guy go a little more serious. This is definitely an actor's film. You know, it's maybe felt just a hair long, but the performances are far more than enough to keep you well invested in the story, and just watching, call it the devolution of both of these people, who they were, you know, at the start, where they end up. Just really, really interesting stuff. I think this is, again, another really solid Netflix hit. If you're looking for something new to watch this weekend, absolutely check it out. The performances are top tier, the writing is stellar, and it's going to give you a lot to talk about, I think, whether just with friends, family, whomever. It's just great food for thought. Thanks again for listening, you guys. As always, make sure you're subscribed to NT Movie Reviews on all social media platforms, different podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube, to stay up to date on all the latest movie news and reviews. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.